Welcome to Voices from Below, a podcast where we share the real stories and experiences of miners. Our aim is to foster understanding and positive change by highlighting personal experiences and insights without focusing on specific individuals or organizations. The views shared here are personal and not necessarily those of the podcast team. Thanks for joining us. Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Voices from Below. Today, we're talking with Andy, who is an experienced fitter in Australia. Andy, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you. Cheers for having me.
So yeah, could you start a little bit by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your journey so far in mining?
Yes, sure. My name's Andy, obviously. You can tell by my outrageous accent that I'm not a native to America or anything. So I hail from Britain, where I was in the army for 13 and a half years, and then I moved across to Australia in 2012, straight after leaving the army. Did 6 years chasing a mining job, and 2018 started my journey underground as an experienced fitter. I got my trade in the army, and haven't really looked back since. It's been a good career. It's been good to me so far, and I'm enjoying it.
So yeah, could you describe a little bit more about how the army actually got you into that exactly?
All right, so I was in what they call the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. So I was a tank doctor. Every boy's dream. You know what I mean? So you get to drive the tanks, you get to fix the tanks. It's like brilliant, rolling around in grease, oil, and mud. Fantastic. So they gave me my trade, an apprenticeship. They gave me my trade. I served with another 7 years in the army. Did a few tours overseas. Went to Afghan, went to Iraq. Lovely places like that. It's great. It's all inclusive. Weather's good. And then decided to call it quits because I wanted a family. I ended up moving off to Australia. I moved across with a plant hire company, and they moved me to this place called Murrumbidgee, which is in central Queensland in the coal fields, as they call it. And I saw what miners were making, and I went, "Oh, wouldn't mind a piece of that action." So it was just as the GFC, the global financial crisis, hit. It was 2013, and kind of had to wait, be patient, and wait for my opportunity to get in. But I managed it, so I'm quite chuffed with that.
So yeah, so when you made the choice to move to Australia, it wasn't with mining directly in mind, or was it?
Not directly in mind. There was a sort of there was a long process. The trouble with mining in Australia, I'm not going to pick holes in it, but it's very much dependent on who you know. It's I don't know what it's like in the US, but over here there's quite a lot of nepotism that goes on in mining. So it's very much can be quite family orientated. Or I know a mate, my best mate works in there, so he's going to get me a job. And it's the way it is, you know.
Yeah.
So I played the long game because the Aussies call me a pommie. So the US call me a limey, but I'm called a pommie over here. So because I was a pommie, I didn't have too many mates in mining. I had to play the long game, and I still won. I still got a job.
Yeah. So specifically, when you said that, you saw the money that that people in the mining industry were making, were there any other factors outside of just money that was like interesting to you?
Well, I got offered a job in an open cut mine, which I was like, it just didn't. No offense to all the open cut guys out there, maybe listening. I apologise, but I've always said to myself, you're not a proper miner until you're wearing a cap lamp. Otherwise, you're just working in a quarry. And I say that with tongue in my cheek. We call them gravel scratchers over here. You like your gravel scratching. That's what you do. You're just scratching the dirt. I think it was, I don't want to sound stupid, but it sounded a bit more romantic. You know what I mean? Working underground. I'm used to a little bit more dangerous. I was like, because I've always been in that line of work where I like a little bit of, it keeps you on your toes. You know, you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And you need to be proud about what you do. And I'm proud about what I do. I think it's a good career. There's good prospects. And it's the pay packet ain't bad either. So,
yeah. So for someone who's, not very familiar with what a fitter is, can you just describe that to them?
Well,
Your role basically.
a mechanical fitter. So what I work in what they call a development crew in the mine I'm currently at. And what I do, I basically make sure that all the equipment that we're using is fit for operation. I deal with any breakdowns. Where we have scheduled and planned maintenance days, I deal with the planned and scheduled maintenance for the machine. So we're talking the continuous miner, the shuttle car, the feeder breaker, the boot end, the conveyor belt, and any other machinery that may be in my panel at the time. So so I deal with hydraulics, pneumatics. I am a diesel fitter by trade, but I can do pneumatics, hydraulics, planetary gearboxes, or epicyclics as they call them, and so on and so forth. And it's more fun than being in a workshop too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So when you, initially went underground and did all that, like, is it what you kind of envisioned, or was it just completely different?
Well, I didn't really know what to expect. Having never been in an underground mine before, I was really excited actually, because I didn't start off in development. I started off in, well, I think it was pretty cool actually. They started me off in what they call a ventilation crew. So I had to go down and build stoppings and make sure all the ventilation was right. So you have the intake and you have your returns coming back. So it's bloody important. But then that gave me the understanding of the processes that you needed to actually achieve to actually mine safely underground. And then they moved me on to conveyor install, we call it belts, just the belts, the conveyor belts, and that was an install crew. So that gave me an understanding on how different belts work, different systems, CST drives, Nifty belts, Jiffy belts, blah 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 blah. That was useful, and then they moved me into development. They considered me as I'm not blowing smoke up my rear end, but they considered me as a fairly accomplished fitter. So they moved me into development because you've got to have your wits about you. And during production, which is I'm on a production crew, it's literally patch her up. If it breaks, patch it up the best you can and keep cutting.
With the work that you were doing, obviously it was across, many different types, but would you say that the danger level of what you're getting into was like super high, or, like we've had people on this podcast before that have kind of ranged from like, it's not too bad to like, it's kind of dangerous. So like, what's your perspective?
It can be. Look, it depends. You personally can make it as dangerous as you perceive. So it's your ability. The dangers are there. They're very real, don't get me wrong, but they can be managed very, very effectively. So if they weren't managed very, very effectively, you'll be losing, people on a daily basis. So it's about the management and how you deal with things. What you listen to your deputy, you listen to other people. You don't go in there with the attitude that I know everything, I'm invincible. Because unfortunately, in a mine site, especially an underground mine site, the squashiest thing in the mine site is the miner. So you ain't going to beat the machines. You're not going to beat the ribs of the roof or anything like that. So you need to have your wits about you, absolutely. But it's as dangerous as you make it. So if you haven't got your wits about you, I've done it before. I stood under a section of unsupported roof without realising. My mate quickly went, "What are you doing?" He wasn't as polite as that. I don't know how you stand with your swear words, because I can swear like a trooper because I used to be one. But so he grabbed me back out of the way. He was like, "Nah, mate, you got to." And I looked up and instead of going, "What are you doing?" I went, "Oh, yeah, cheers for that." So you look out for each other as well. So it's as dangerous as you make it, I think. Personally. Yeah.
And specifically, we've also had people from Australia and not from Australia say that sometimes management tended to prioritize production over safety at times. Do you think that's the case, or no in general? What do you think?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one, actually. Well, I'm trying to think of instances where, but I think because of the legislation that we've got in Australia that management have to abide by, they're more, unfortunately, scared about getting slapped across the wrist than they are about the actual welfare of the miners. And I don't like saying that. There is a fair few bosses, they're not top bosses, but fair few bosses I've worked for in the past that do care. Yes, there has been an air of no, we need to get this coal out, and it's about the workforce. Hence, why unions can be important. I'm not actually officially a member of a union yet, which is quite surprising. But dig your heels in and say no, we're not happy with the way this is being done at the moment, and you need to. I don't know. As I said to a lot of people, I actually have a spine. I'm not a dead slug. I have a backbone, and I'm willing to actually stand up and say, nah, not happy with it. This is not right. So normally, if you're not sure about something, you always ask questions and say, look, is this going to be safe? As I said, but there can be an air of that, and sometimes if you go into a mine and none of the miners are moaning, you're in a very, very strange place. I've never been to a pit where no one is complaining about something. There's always something wrong. Is everyone going, oh bloody hell, where would you rather be? The jokes are like, where would you rather be? Another day in paradise. No, it's rubbish. The environment you work in is crap. You don't do it for the view. That's what I say. But sometimes the management, they can produce an air of it's difficult to explain. A non-reporting culture. So there's an instance, a pit, again, that shall be nameless. It actually went up in smoke in central Queensland a few years back, and 5 guys got very, very badly burned on the longwall. They didn't, luckily, no fatalities, but there was extremely. These guys are still going through surgeries and everything. But they all had a load of. It was contractors mainly, and they had an ignition on the longwall. No one really knows how it occurred, so I'm not going to even touch that one, but it did occur. There was an ignition on the longwall, and what was happening was these guys knew there was problems, but they'd instilled this culture of, if you report something, we're going to get rid of you. So it got to a point where it almost seemed like people were too scared, or not scared is not the right, but they were too concerned about their job to speak up about something that they thought was a problem. Because as soon as they were considered a troublemaker, inverted commas, they'd find a reason to make sure they weren't working there anymore. So the management instilled that no report culture, which I think is wrong. I think everyone should have a voice, and as long as they can explain to you why they've done something, that's what the trouble with mining is. It's a very, very reactive industry. So it takes something bad to happen before they make changes. So that's the trouble. They need to be a little bit more proactive. Don't get me wrong. The industry itself is it's a ripper. You know what I mean? It's brilliant. I love it. I love doing it. I love the guys I work with, and that's mainly why I do it. It's because of the guys I work with. But the industry itself, it needs to be a bit more proactive than reactive. So that's the only thing. That's what I'd say. That's my personal opinion. It may not be shared by everyone, but few blokes back in the US probably nodding their heads and going, "Oh, this guy knows his game," and I was like, "Yeah."
I'm sure, probably across all the world. You mentioned specifically unions. So, what exactly do they do within the mining industry? And for someone who's starting, should they join one?
Well, unions, as it's been explained to me, because there are a lot of lads that I work with, good mates of mine as well, are part of the unions. They're going, "Oh, Andy, you're part of the union yet?" I'm like, "No, not yet." And they were like, "Well, why not?" I was like, "Well, I don't really know what you do." So I've asked a lot of questions. Then it occurred to me that the conditions that we've currently got, for me, because I work 7 days on, 7 days off normally, I've got a permanent camp room now. I've got 3 square meals a day when I'm out there. I've got laundry facilities. I've got I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, and the company didn't just let you go. The unions fought for it to make the quality better for the workers. So the unions put out what they call an EA, which is an enterprise agreement, which basically says this is what we want, and the mine go, well, yeah, well, we can do that, we can do this, we can do that, we can't do this, can't do that. The union's not happy with that. They're like, nah. So they'll come to a compromise eventually, but the union will fight for the rights of the worker. If someone has been singled out and they believe it's, they're trying to discipline someone on false pretenses or the wrong pretenses, they'll actually give you they'll give you representation. They'll help you out, and also they'll, if you get injured at work, they'll cover. I think it's up to 75% of your wages, which is probably a good thing, eh? Well, I should probably look into it myself. Now I'm talking about it, I'm like, maybe I should do it a while ago. But it is what it is.
So, I mean, in that, like, I mean, you would probably say for someone to at least consider joining them, or is there, I mean, are there also like other reasons that, you would say for people that are hesitant, maybe why they shouldn't join one?
I can't really think of any reason why you shouldn't. And this is, from someone who's not actually a member of a union yet. I can't think of any reason why you shouldn't. But I can't. Yeah, there's no reason why you should. And it's a good culture nowadays. It used to be back in the day when I first started. It's only 6 years ago, so I'm probably one of the newer guys you've spoken to from underground. 6 years ago, the lodges and the unions were really, really strong. And if you weren't part of the union, people didn't want to know you. It was unfortunate, but things have changed a bit, shifted. So no one really cares. No one pushes for you to be part of the union. It's absolutely your decision. But they said there's always a phrase they use. It's the MEU over here. It's the Mining Energy Union. They say, stronger the union, safer the mine. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can see that. As long as they're not doing, because there was, before I went underground, I was a field service technician for this plant hire company. I went to a certain open cut pit, and the guys were on a 24-hour walkout. And I turned up to do my job, so I was nothing to do with the mine itself. I was just there for a plant that was on there that needed servicing. They said, you can't cross this picket line. I said, well, I'm not here for you guys. I'm here for the interests of the company I work for. And they were like, well, yeah, okay. I said, what's this walkout about? And apparently there was no coffee in the crib room. And I went, you what? I couldn't believe what was. I thought they were joking. And I started laughing, and this bloke's there going, oh, it's not funny. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Talk about petty. So I didn't have any interest in stupid little games like that. Coffee. Are you serious, man? You know what I mean? Bring your own bloody coffee. You get a good wage. You know what I mean? Bring your own coffee with you. Who cares? And so I didn't really fancy it, and that kind of put me off to begin with. But I don't think anything that petty happens anymore. So, which I'm thankful about.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking industrial action over no coffee in a crib room. Are you serious? But yeah, I think they're important. And if they were going to make industrial action about something like that, you could still have a say and say, I'm not getting involved in this.
Yeah.
And they say, well, this is what's happening. Just make sure you're on annual leave when they're doing it. Just like, I'll wash my hands of you. So, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, when you were talking about those accidents, if you want to call it, whatever happened, do you think that better safety could have fixed incidents like that, or is that just are those just chance of events that can't really be avoided?
There's always an air of what if. I don't want to. Again, I'm not jumping in conclusions. There's rumors about what happened in that pit, and some of them are shocking. But I'm not willing to divulge into those rumors.
Of course.
I personally think what happened at that pit was avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was because of that non-reporting culture. that management had instilled that happened. So not every long wall that happens in the pit goes boom, which is good, because if it did, I wouldn't be working it.
Yeah, you'd probably be out of a job.
Well, yeah, I'd be out of a job. I wouldn't go underground in the first place. But yeah, they can improve safety. There needs to be more of a proactive approach. As I said, a proactive approach to saying if someone is whinging about something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to cause trouble. It means that there's something going on underground that you need to be aware of, and they should probably look seriously into. The thing is that the long walls, these big machines that basically shear across a block, are the money makers for underground pits. They don't want them to stop. Certain pits, if you stop that for any minute, you're in trouble. I was on the long wall belt maintenance, and I pulled up because I had this red hot roller on the conveyor belt. It was spilling out smoke. It ripped away from its end casing. It was like a pizza cutter at the bottom of the belt. And I was like, right, you got 10 minutes to get back to the main gate, and I'm pulling the cord. I'm shutting this down because I need to change this roller out. Because firstly, it looks like you might have a fire, and secondly, you're going to cut the belt in half, like literally lengthways.
Wow.
I said, what would you rather? They said, well, no, you can't. I said, well, get back to the main gate. You got 10 minutes. So I had this hose on this roller. Just like, please, just don't cut that belt, because I had, like I said, the pizza cutter going on. And they've got back to the main gate, and they've carried on again. I was like, no. They started doing another shear. I was like, whoop, pulled it. Oh my God, I was getting sworn at. I was getting called all the names under the sun down this DAC system, which is like the communication system. And I was like, nah, I'm a bigger boy. I can take that. You know what I mean? I've been called worse. And but apparently it cost. They said, you just cost us $4,500 a minute every time that belt's done. And I'm like, well, not really. I probably saved you a lot of money. Yeah, okay, it cost you $4,500 a minute. I stopped you for 20 minutes. Yeah, you do maths on that one. I went, nah, because I saved you in the long run. Because if that belt had gone, we would have been down for 2 or 3 shifts. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's always a bit of a pissing competition, is it not? Who's got the bigger appendage? Yeah. And I've got nothing to show, by the way. I've just got a bit of a backbone. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like, so that's my job. My job is to make sure that you carry on. And if I could see a problem, this roller was about to let loose and rip the belt in half. I was like, nah, this is what I'm doing.
Got it.
So if you see something wrong, you know what? Everyone gets over shit. Excuse my French. Everyone gets over stuff. So they called me names for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then next week, it's forgotten. So if you want to work underground, make sure you leave your feelings at the gate. You can always pick them up on the way out, but never take anything too personally, because you're not making everyone happy. Someone's going to find a problem with what you do. As long as you can justify what you're doing, and as long as you can take criticism or constructive criticism when you're doing the wrong thing without realizing it. You're like, I don't know anyone that goes underground and intentionally does the wrong thing. You know what I mean? They don't go out their way to go, you know what, how can I how can I mess stuff up today? Yeah. So no one does that. You get some interesting people down there. You're thinking, how are you still breathing? As in, like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have enough of cleaning windows with your tongue? Did you, mate? This is why you're down here. So no, that's what you're thinking. You don't really say that. Well, I've said that to a few people, but there's some people that are strong like bull, clever like tractor kind of people. Yeah. So they're big lads, but nothing going on upstairs. You know, the lights empty. The lights on, but that's just a security light someone just left on because it popped out for a while. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. And but then again, you get some really clever people that should be like working for NASA, I reckon, down there. And you're like, what the hell are you doing down here? Oh, I love it. And they're just creepy people. And you're like, oh, have you got any kids? Mate? Yeah, in your inbox, I reckon. They're just really creepy, you know. You're like, ugh. And so there's a good cross section of people down there. And I'm just a bit of a clown. You got to enjoy your work somehow. So I'm goofing off a little bit. As long as the work's getting done, I'm goofing off. People like it. It keeps spirits up, people are smiling. Yeah, that's important. So
Yeah. So kind of going off of that, we've had basically every undergrad miner say that the people that they work with are incredibly important, like for morale, for anything like that. So like, how does the people that you're working with play a role, every single day in what you do?
it's that you spend more of your waking life. I spend more of my waking life. I don't know how the rosters work in the US. You know what I mean? I don't really know too much about the mining in the US, but over here we got, like I said, seven shifts. Most mines do it in Queensland, 7 and 7. You spend most of your waking life, your conscious life, at work with these people.
Yeah.
So they're really important. So important. If you're on a bad crew, as in you don't see eye to eye, I've been on one of those bad crews at a previous pit I was, and the reason I didn't want to work there anymore is because I didn't really see eye to eye with many people in that crew. I had a couple of mates there, but nothing really strong. The crew I'm with at the moment are the best crew I've ever worked with. So everyone's on the same sort of page. You've still got differences of opinions, which makes it more fun. Sense of humour. Normally, if you say a joke, there's a line. There's no line. We can go as deep and dark and sick as you want, and what happens underground stays on the ground. There's a few funny things we get up to. I've got the business of scaring the crap out of one of the guys I work with. He's a little Maori fella, a little Kiwi, little guy from New Zealand, and he scares easily. So I'm just having fun with him all the time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if my work's done, I'll lay and wait for him somewhere around a rib. You know what I mean? And just pop out, and I've like actually clung to a roof mesh sheet for about 5 minutes and drop down on him. And he's like, "What the?" Yeah, it's just fun. You've got to have fun at work. As long as, like I said, as long as you're doing your job and doing your job well, by all means, have a bit of a crack. And you're not doing none of your practical jokes are putting anyone in any danger. It's true. This is bloody important. We make sure that we're always looking out for each other. The guys I work with, they're sensitive. Everyone's is a different walk of life. Everyone's got their own backstory. Everyone's got their own sort of stories they share, and some of them are bloody hilarious. But on the same token, if one of the guys is struggling, in whatever way, we can talk about it too. So we've always got each other's backs, and I feel safe when I go down there because I know if anything happens to me, one of them are going to help me out. Even though they call me an ethnic minority because I've got a stupid accent. They're like, "Oh, yeah." I was like, it's all right. They always call me the stupid pommy guy, and I'm like, "Oi, can't I just be a stupid guy? What's with this pommy stuff? You know what I mean? You're just being racist now. Is it because I'm an ethnic minority?" And they all start laughing. So it's always, you've got to be juvenile. Growing up physically is mandatory, right? Growing up in the head, that's a choice. I've always been a little bit immature. I'm 43 years old, and I'm like, nah, yeah, why grow up? It's more fun being Peter Pan syndrome kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So just detouring from that for just 1 second. You first mentioned nepotism pretty early on into this interview, but I was just wondering, what role does it play? Do you see it at just the higher levels of management, or do you just see it just in every single level in mining in Australia for the most part? Like where do you see
level,
it? Okay,
every
and
single level.
how exactly does that take place? Like how would you describe the culture kind of with that?
Culture's good, but sometimes because of this nepotism that goes on, sometimes you haven't got the right person for the job. He's literally, he'd be lucky. No offense to anyone, it might be listening that works at McDonald's, right? But he'd be lucky to get a job in Macca's flipping burgers if it wasn't for what his dad did, because he's got an IQ of a dead fish. Basically, you're like, what? And I know that he's a lovely bloke. You know what I mean? And you're like, who's your dad? Oh yeah, he's a production manager, or he's yes, or he's a supervisor on this crew, or he's a deputy on this crew. Yes, you know what I mean? Now it makes sense. and you're just thinking, yeah, no, I don't disagree. If you're on the flip side, I met other people who's an absolute legend, but his whole family's in the industry, and I haven't got a problem with that. If you're good at your job, you absolutely deserve to be there. If you're not, we call him the lantern. I call this particular bloke the lantern. He's a bit dim and has to be carried. You know what I mean? So, if you're not good at your job, why are you here? Because I know for a fact that if I was doing my job to the same standard as you, I would have been told, "Sling your hook, mate, you're out." And I get that. I understand that. You know, but I don't know. It's in some instances absolutely fine, but sometimes you're screwing your hands up, going, "Why are you here?" If you want to get your son, daughter, father, brother, cousin, whoever into mining, that's great, but probably send them to a different pit so they get a fair crack of the whip as everyone else should, you know. And then you can work together after they've proven themselves at a different pit. Maybe you can bring them over, but I don't know. It's part of the culture. I think it will be part of the culture for a long time. It's what it is. So you got like generations, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in the US. Generations of families that work underground.
Yeah.
Not always is the case that they're suited to it. You know, maybe they should have been something else. Maybe they should have gone and done something else. But no, it's because Dad did it. I'm going to do it too. Or Dad wants me to. Dad expects me to. I don't know. Maybe it's an expectation. I don't know. But maybe they should just wise up on a little bit of nepotism. You know, treat them the same. Just it shouldn't matter whose relative you are. If you're good at your job, yeah, you can keep your job. If you're not good at your job, see you later, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, switching gears a little bit, for someone, you know, who's brand new, right, thinking of joining the mining industry in 2024, what would you say to them? What advice would you say to them? What exactly would you describe the industry as, for example, in Australia specifically?
I'd say go for it. Grasp it with both hands because it's a good opportunity. But on the flip side, be sure that you've got a goal. You've got an end game. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? You know, why are you doing it? You've got to ask yourself why. There's always that why. Why are you doing it? Is it because you're trying to impress little Miss Jane back home with the amount of money you can get in a brand new car? You're in it for the wrong reason, mate. Are you doing it because you want a good direction in your life, you know? So hang on a minute. I wouldn't mind starting off here, finding out what it's about. If you enjoy it, what else can I do? You know, everyone's, no offense at the generation that are coming up nowadays, they expect everything to be handed out to them. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. There's a lot that expect everything to be handed out to them on a platter. It's like, oh, you know, the world owes me. The world owes you nothing. It doesn't owe you anything. It will spit you out, chew you up and spit you back out. It doesn't matter, right? So it's about what you can do for yourself. So if you're going to take this job, if you're going to work underground, absolutely, go for it. But don't expect everyone to carry you because you're new. Actively seek out, what can I be doing? If you're not sure what you should be doing, ask someone. No one's ever gonna get paid off of you because you've done the job that they've asked, and then you're like, well, if you stand around with your thumb up your ass, up your backside, then they're gonna get pretty paid off pretty quickly. So actively take some initiative about what you're doing. Actively seek out what you got to do, and when you start recognizing, when you get used to the flow of what happens on the ground, you'll start fitting in with the crew. Have a good sense of humor. Important, because people are going to pay you out left, right, and Chelsea, right? So they are going to pay you out pretty big. You just got to take the rough with the smooth, and people love it. People love it when you give it back, right? Don't bite. As soon as you bite on something, as soon as they've paid you out a little bit, and you're like, oh no, I don't like that. We got you. So we're fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, we got one way. Here we go. And then they'll pay you out even more, you know? So don't show any of your weaknesses, any chinks in your armour. But have a direction. Look for something to do. Always ask questions if you're unsure about what the task is you've been given. You say, look, I understand what you said, but I'm not sure what you mean. Right? So how do you, what's the best way? What's the best way of doing this? Or actively input. So if you can see something else, even if you're new, it doesn't matter how new you are, you can see someone else is doing something, you can pull them up and say, here, mate, got a question. What are we doing this for? What's this about? Because it'll help you in the future understand, and then you can pass on your knowledge to the next newcomer, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So just don't stand idly by like a blooming street light, just illuminating the area. Other people can do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Help out. Just look for stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lastly, you've talked a little bit about, you and your crew and, everyone that you've worked with so far, but when you're done with your career and you look back on, what you've done in mining, what do you want to be remembered as?
I'm always going to be remembered as, I know what I'm going to be remembered as, is that loony pom. He's always a good laugh. I want to be remembered as a bloke that gets his job done, a bloke who's always cheerful. I don't really care how far I get, as long as I'm enjoying my life. I had a goal, and that was to get into production. I'm there now. So I've got to set my sights on something else. At the moment, I'm just treading water. I'm enjoying my time. I've earned it, you know what I mean? So like 13 years, like I said, 13 and a half years in the British Army. Saw some stuff. I deserve to be where I am. And I tell myself that on a daily basis. I'm like, nah, Andy, you know what? You deserve this, mate. Good on you. And I don't know, I've got some extremely good friends. It's almost like a brotherhood. It's the closest I can get back to the military with the way of camaraderie is underground. Like there's nothing like it. It's a brotherhood, and it's a small industry as well, especially in Australia. The longer you do it, if you go from one pit to another pit, you'll always know someone.
Yeah.
And other people go, oh, I've heard about you, and you've heard about them. You're like, oh, I've heard about you, mate. And yeah, it's a small industry, believe it or not. Yeah, there's a few thousand of us across the board, but someone knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, and it's quite funny how oh, do you know this guy? Yeah, I do actually. Oh, yeah, how's he doing? And
yeah,
that's how it goes. I'll be remembered, as I said, just being a bloke who's not the best for it in the world, but who's not the worst. He gets his job done, and he's always had a bit of fun doing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this, Andy. I really appreciate it, man.
Not too easy, mate. Thanks very much indeed for having me on your show.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later, man.
No worries. Too easy, mate. Speak to you.
All right. See you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Voices from Below. If you or anyone you know wants to be featured on Voices from Below, you can reach us at voicesfrombelowpodcast@gmail.com. That is voicesfrombelowpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to catch you in the next episode.